Hi. So I just ended my last video. Ended up talking about master-slave relationships. And I don't mean like actual like slavery type relationships where you have somebody who works for you and you whip them. But I'm talking about like a actual a romantic relationship. You might call it the dominant and the submissive. Where I was talking about like me dating a man. I've never dated a man, and I think there are a few reasons for that, and one of those is just that I've never met a man who uh, what I feel like is if I was going to date a man, I would want to date one who was in some way my master. If that makes sense. I don't mean that he like tells me what to do, but I just mean that there's more of a uh, I feel like he's more powerful than me, if that makes sense. I guess maybe. And I don't meet guys like that. Here, I live in a small town, and it seems like a lot of the guys that I meet are very not powerful. And I know for a lot of women, they want to date powerful men, uh, and they probably would not want to date a man who is less powerful than them. I'm not necessarily opposed to dating someone who's less powerful than me, but I feel like if I'm going to do that, then I would prefer it for it to be a woman, because I would prefer it to be someone who is more receptive, if that makes sense. I would not want to date a man who is less powerful than me because he's probably not going to be receptive. There's probably going to be some power struggles, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, if you're not going to be a real man, I'm using that word kind of willy nilly here, arbitrarily. I don't actually have a definition of what a real man is, but I do have an idea of kind of the man that I would want to date, if that's what a real man is. But uh, I don't know if that's the relationship that I want at the moment. I kind of feel like that is something that I need to do. Uh, I've been thinking a lot recently about something that I read about in a book on Greek homosexuality, which is called pederasty. It was a custom, at least in Sparta. I think the custom might have existed elsewhere, but I don't know in what manner in which it existed elsewhere, because it there was what I'm talking about was not just pederasty is a sexual relationship between an older man and a younger man, basically. I don't know exactly what the word means. Like if you break it down, it has the ped prefix, so you might think, well, that's like pedophilia kind of thing. Uh, if I had to guess, I would say the words are similar, but the custom wasn't about like young boys. It wasn't like 8-year old, 9-year old, 12-year old boys. It's more like a between like say like a 30-year old and a 16 or 18-year old. Where at least in Sparta, the way the custom went was that the objective was that this was a type of initiation, a rite of passage, a way for an immature man to become a real man or to become a mature man. And the way that it worked, or the way that the relationship went, was that it was not just a romantic sexual relationship, but it was also a master disciple relationship. And so that's kind of why I used that phrase master-slave relationship, because with the master-disciple relationship, that also was a master-slave relationship. At least it wasn't that those words were not used in the book on Greek homosexuality. They did not use those words, master and slave. I think the way they put it was receptive, maybe something like that. But it was certainly a master-student relationship. I'll put it that way. But I don't know how it was in Greece exactly. At least as far as the master-slave goes, I do know that was like that in parts of India where you had a similar thing, slightly different, but with the pederasty in ancient Greece, the way it worked was the older man, if he saw a younger man that he liked, he would present him with a gift, and if the boy accepted it, that meant they were now in this relationship. They were now committed to each other, and in the region of India, Bangladesh, this area, this is what my friend was telling me, is that they had something similar, but it was the student who sought the teacher out. So a boy might be kind of like in search of like spiritual guidance or whatever, and he would go find like a guru basically. And I don't know if they called it guru in this case, but I don't know what they called it, but it was very similar to the pederasty thing where they entered into a sexual relationship also. But in this case, it was very much a master-slave relationship where the older man would basically, whatever he wanted, the younger man did. So the younger man would do his dishes, his laundry, cook his food. They lived together in the same house, and would have sex with the older man whenever he wanted. Yeah. So I don't know how true that is. This is what my friend was telling me. And so that was not totally different from what was in the relationship in Greece. The thing is, I don't know what they did as far as washing dishes. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. But the idea there was that the younger man was in some ways basically the wife of the older man. Now, at least in Greece, the older man may have already actually had a wife of his own, and a female, a woman. They probably, had kids together already and that sort of thing. And because the purpose of this relationship, the pederastic relationship, was not just to be a love affair, right? This was about an older man bringing a younger man into maturity. And so I've been thinking about that quite a bit. I'm thinking about putting that into one of my stories. I'm working on a story that was my version. After I watched the last 3 Star Wars episodes, the episodes 7, 8, 9, is it? I thought I can do better than that. I can write a better story than that. So I started on my own story. It's not a Star Wars story, but it is kind of loosely based on the Star Wars story. But in mine, what you might call the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker relationship, in mine is the pederastic relationship where the Jedi, he's not called Jedi in my story, but the guy who starts off, if you were watching this and you were thinking, if you're watching my movie and you think this guy looks like he's kind of like a Jedi kind of thing, or he's going to be, he ends up in this relationship with his master, but they are lovers. And the younger one is the wife, basically. But this is something that he has to go through on his process to becoming mature. So I'm not going to say that this is something this for me is just a rite of passage. It could be. It could be what I really want. Maybe what I want in life is just to be some guy's wife. I don't know. What I do feel like is this. It's something that I have to try. Where am I at? I'm trying to see how much time I've. Okay, about 10 minutes. But I do feel like if I'm going to try that, then I want to try that with a man who is, you might say, where I want to be. Where someone who is somebody who I look up to, right? Somebody I admire or even idolize. And because what I think people have talked to me about this. People have, like my friend the other day made the comment to me. He said, "You're a submissive sissy," and he said that because he asked me something about wearing diapers or something, and no, I said something about playing the baby. I told him we were talking about playing house or role playing or something like that, and I said when I was younger, we used to always play house with my cousins and stuff like that, and I always played the baby. He said, "You're a submissive sissy. You want somebody to take care of you and that sort of thing." And I was kind of like, "Well, maybe I am. I don't know. I don't feel like I am. But my thing is, I might feel that way if the person that I was being submissive to was someone who I felt like was a good master, if that makes sense. It's like if I'm going to, it's almost like I'm a follower in that case, right? But it's like, I don't really want to follow somebody if they're not going somewhere that I want to go. Yeah, so I don't know. I remember being in Atlanta, going through the Alcoholics Anonymous, and I went to several AA groups, and one of the ones I went to, I met my second sponsor, and at one point he said to me, he said, "I have something you want, and you don't even know that you want it." And I remember looking at him and thinking, "Yeah, no, I don't think so." When I look at you, you don't seem like someone who is where I want to be. I didn't say that to him. But I think what I thought to myself was something like, well, if you had what I wanted, you would already know what I was looking for, you know? You wouldn't be telling me that I don't know that I want it because you would already know that I want it because I already know that I want something. And so either you have something that maybe I do want that I've never heard of or whatever, but I don't know. Anyways, I just kind of felt like, yeah, no, I feel like I do. There is something that I want, and I don't think you can give it to me. Uh, but that's in my story. That's kind of how it goes. This young kid meets a master, and the master recognizes that this young boy he recognizes his potential and adopts him basically. But then as he grows older, he gets to this kind of like he looks at his pretty much his dad kind of in a way and realizes that this is kind of it's not at first because at first he's kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi, kind of the guy, the poor bum, kind of, who kind of is out in the middle of nowhere. But then he discovers as the story goes along, that he's actually quite wealthy and quite powerful, and things change. So that is for me a kind of fantasy, is to meet someone like that who has their shit together, someone who, if they were to say to me, go do this, I'd say, all right, you obviously know what you're doing, so I'm just going to, I'm not going to say I'll do whatever you want. I'll go with it for now. But I have thought that before. I've thought there is a part of me that wants to be submissive to somebody, who wants to just be like, yeah, tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. But so many people that I meet, I feel like they are either, if I were to do that for them, they would either take advantage of me, or I would follow them, but they would lead me somewhere I don't want to go. And I don't know. Maybe there are people out there who need that. Maybe what they need is someone who's just like, yeah, I'm yours. Use me, just use me. I'm here for you. But I'm kind of like, yeah, no. I don't know if it's just the humiliation part there, that where I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't feel like that's a good idea. But I don't feel like that's a good idea. I feel like that. What's that saying? If the blind lead the blind, they both end up in a ditch. And that's kind of how I feel about that. As far as like being submissive to somebody else, it's like, if I'm gonna lay down my life for you, hopefully there's some good that comes out of it, other than you just, you being amused or whatever. This is something that I feel like I have to look at. I do have an interest in Sufism, and in Sufism, that is something that you see there also, where you have the guide and the student, and the idea there is that at some point they have what they call fana, which means annihilation. Am I telling this right? But it means like annihilation of the will, basically, like annihilation. Some people might call it annihilation of the ego, but it really has more to do with the will. So what happens is, at some point, the student gives up their own will for the will of their teacher. But the idea there is that through doing that, the teacher passes the baton on to God at some point, and the student then adopts God's will, right? But they need the teacher to kind of make that link. And but that means the student has to first do the will of the teacher. The teacher can say to you, "Hey, go do this or go do that." And through the student submitting to the teacher and saying, "Okay, I'll do whatever you say," the teacher will then guide the student to God. And so that's something that I look at and I think, that sounds like something that I want, but there's still that question of like, who can I trust? If I'm going to submit myself to somebody, I want to submit myself to somebody who I look at and I say, you can get me to where I want to go. And that has been an issue, an ongoing issue. It's kind of like, pretend for a second that, how much time do I have? I got 20 minutes. One of the points that the Bible makes is that when Jesus was here, people didn't know that he was Jesus. They didn't. When I say they didn't know he was Jesus, I mean they didn't know that he was someone who could take them to where they wanted to go. He was someone who could help them find what they were looking for. What does Jesus say? That no one comes to the Father but through me. So if you're looking to find God, that's kind of what Jesus was here for, right? Was to bring people to God. And that is what he says, right? No one comes to the Father but through me. That means that if you're looking for God, you have to go through Jesus to get there. So, but it's kind of questionable there. Is he talking about himself as the man Jesus, or is he talking about himself as the Logos, the primordial Logos that was here before the existence of the universe? That's not quite clear. If he does mean the mortal man, then you have to assume that there are other teachers. Like Jesus. Oh my God. I had to sit up to burp. So yeah. So basically, there's this person here who came and had the ability to bring people to God. Which, if you're not familiar, that's what a guru does. If you go to India in search of a guru, that's their goal. They are there to help you find God, basically. But anyways, whether you believe that or not, one of the points that the Bible makes was that Jesus was here, but people didn't recognize that he had that authority, that how else do I put it? That Jesus was here, but people didn't know that he was Jesus, if that makes sense. How else can I put it? I don't want to use the word the Son of God, because then it gets confusing. Jesus did not actually say that he was the Son of God. He called himself the Son of Man. Anyways, so if you take that point, though, that the Bible makes, he came unto his own, but his own did not receive him. Then you can take that and put that on life right now and say, Jesus might be here now and nobody knows it, right? Maybe there's more than one. Maybe there's 100 Jesuses walking out around the world somewhere, because these are people who are basically teachers, right? If that's what Jesus is, if Jesus is a teacher who can bring you to God, right? There might be 1,000 in the world right now walking around, and you don't know it. So, but then that is the question, right? How do you know it? How would you know Jesus if Jesus walked up to you and was right in front of your face? How would you know it was Jesus? If a guy walks up to you and says, "Hey, I can bring you to God," can you trust that person? Are you gonna be like, okay? And he says, "All right, I can bring you to God, but you got to do whatever I tell you to do." Or you can be like, "Wait a minute, no, I don't know about that." So perhaps you see my predicament. But aside from that, I do feel like I have this kind of like, I would like to be a girlfriend at one point in my life. I'd like to know what it's like to date a guy. Not necessarily to find God, but because there's just that part of me that feels like I want to give this a try. But there's also that part of me that's like, if I'm going to date a guy, I want it to be Jesus, right? I want it to be someone who is going to treat me right and not take advantage of me and this sort of thing. So, yeah. Just going to go ahead and stop right there.